I just wanted to quickly mention makeup and hair because of course this is also going to be part of your model. So it is something to think about. Again, when you first start, you're probably not going to be working with a makeup artist or a hair artist. So I'm just going to advise to keep it simple. For makeup, you can advise your model to either come with no makeup on at all or like a barely there kind of makeup, maybe just foundation and concealer. If you're working with modeling agencies, they're very used to coming out and shooting with no makeup on. Maybe if you're shooting with your friends, they're not so happy to go on camera without a full face of makeup. Then that's kind of up to them. If you're shooting with friends, of course, it's just like a collaborative thing, so you can work with them and you can take into consideration what they feel comfortable with. But if you have any say in the matter, if your friend's happy to come with a fresh face, not too much makeup or barely there makeup, then that would probably be better for your own portfolio. And for hair, definitely keep it natural. Say to the model for them to bring a comb or a hairbrush depending on their hair type, so that if it goes askew you can fix it. It's definitely more about keeping it natural when it comes to hair and makeup. As you get more experienced and you start building out your team and working with different people, then of course you can bring on board a makeup artist or a hair artist who's going to bring your photography to the next level. Let's say you've made it to the shoot day. How do you proceed? What do you do on the actual shoot day? So let's get into some tips and tricks. The first thing you should do is arrive at the shoot location earlier than when the model is going to arrive. If you are very unfamiliar with a shoot location, maybe you only been there once or twice, you could arrive half an hour earlier to get to grips with the area and make sure everything looks okay and deal with any problems that might have occurred that you didn't even think could happen. From shooting in New York, of course, sometimes whole streets were cornered off for different events and that kind of thing. So you do need to be prepared that you might need to think on your feet a little bit. And so that's why I would advise getting there earlier. And another reason why it's great to arrive earlier is actually just to play around with your settings. Even though the model isn't there, you can still get an idea of how to shoot. I would often just go to a shoot location early and just take random photos of people walking by. They don't even see that you've taken the photos. It's more just like taking a photo of your surroundings. But if you get some people in it, you'll be able to see, oh, that person is super overexposed or this is super underexposed. I'm going to tweak my settings a little bit. So you can kind of get the settings more in the range that they need to be. This will just kind of, again, put your mind at ease and get you ready to shoot so that there's less time fiddling around with your camera when the model is there. And even if there's no people there, sometimes I just stick my hand out in front of the camera and take a photo of my hand so that I can see what the exposure is like. Of course, that only works for me if I'm working with someone with the same kind of skin tone as me. It might not necessarily work so well if I was shooting with a black model, for instance, but still. It's still getting it into the range, and you're obviously going to do tweaking when the model arrives, but at least you're kind of double checking. And it'll also give you a chance to like check on silly little things, like maybe your ISO is like super high and you could have missed it maybe if you were rushing to work with the model, but you've noticed it and you've pulled it down because you had that little bit of extra time. So when your model arrives, obviously say hi to them, put them at ease, ask them general chit-chatty questions to not completely jump straight into it, even though I am a person that kind of meets the model for like a minute or two and then dives into it. Because at the same time, you don't want to just be talking about completely random stuff and kind of wasting both of your time. But anyway, the point is just kind of try and put the model at ease, be your friendly, nice self. And of course then it's time to start taking some photos when you're both ready. Before you start kind of taking proper photos, I always say that I'm going to take some test photos first. And this is what I was talking about earlier when I was taking photos of passers-by. I kind of got my settings into the right range, but until you're in front of the model, taking photos of the model, who knows if those settings are going to be right. So take 1 or 2 photos, look at the back of your camera and see how are they exposed, does it look good? Just take this time to tweak the settings. And the great thing about saying I'm just going to take some test photos is that you feel less pressure because the model knows that you're just playing around with the photos. They'll feel less pressure. They don't necessarily need to pose, and you'll feel less pressure because they know that you're still tweaking your settings. When you're ready to go, when you're happy with how the settings look, then you just let them know, okay, let's take some proper photos now. And if it's an experienced model, they'll probably just go straight into a pose for the photo shoot. If it's a less experienced model, then maybe you'll have to give them a lot of guidance and tell them exactly how you want them to pose and show them exactly how you want them to pose. But what I really want to stress here is that it's all about communication. So don't just go ahead and put your camera in front of their face and just starting taking photos and looking at your camera and changing photos and just not telling them anything. You have to explain, oh, I'm going to take a test photo, and oh, these photos look good, so let's do proper photos. Open communication with your model is really important. Again, depending on the experience, your model might need a lot of direction. So don't necessarily just tell them what you want to do. You should also actually do the pose yourself. Why not? So pose that I think I picked up from the photographer Jessica Whittaker on YouTube is having your hand like this, and then this hand can like rest under your chin or like this. So that's just something for them to do with their hands. It's really important for especially inexperienced models to know what to do with their hands. That's just one example. So have a little think about how you want them to pose, and don't just tell them, show them. So remember that Pinterest board, this board of inspiration where you might have pinned some poses that you wanted to try? Don't be afraid to take out your phone and show them a pose and ask them to do the same pose. Giving the model a visual idea of what you're thinking of will help them to be able to pose in the way you want, and will ultimately help you both get really great photos for your portfolio. So another tip, and I think this is a really important tip because I think a lot of photographers don't do this, I think you should show the model the photos you're taking as you're taking them. Not after every single photo you take, of course. If you're digital, you're taking a lot of photos, so that would be silly. But, you know, once you've taken a few photos in a location or in a certain pose, why not turn around the camera, show them the display, and show them how they're looking? Of course, this only works if you're a digital photographer. It doesn't apply to analog. But if you are a digital photographer, definitely consider doing it. I think this also puts the model at ease. They can see how they're looking. And also models, they know what their face does and they know what looks best for them. So they might see a picture that you've taken and be like, oh, that's nice, but actually I'd prefer if my face was slightly different, and like they can tilt their head up or something like that. You'd be surprised how much people know their own face and their own body and what works for them. For that reason, show them the images as you're taking them every now and then. It'll make your model feel included. It'll put your model at ease because they'll see that you're doing a great job and that the photos are going to be good. And also they can have ideas as well of how to move their body or how to pose for these photos. Also, don't forget to encourage your model to interact with the location. So if there's a wall, you can get them to lean on it. Maybe there's a lamppost, you can get them to hang off it or lean on it again. If there's steps, they can sit down on the curb. So remember, it's not just about like a model standing there and posing for you. It's also about interacting with the environment that you're in to get the best kind of possible photo shoots. And it'll also loosen up the model. Another thing to bear in mind, if your model is a little bit nervous, doesn't know what to do with their hands, why not add a prop? Perhaps you could do a coffee cup. That's a really popular one with bloggers and influencers. So, you know, grab a takeaway coffee and then the model can sip from the cup and hold it. Depending on the style of photo shoot, you can even have a bunch of flowers or a magazine or a newspaper. Adding a prop can give your model something to play with and also add a little bit of interest to the photo shoot as well. I would also say don't be afraid of movement. So if you have a fast shutter speed, then you can take some cool photos of a model walking, maybe striding across the road, even twirling. That's a really big one with bloggers and influencers, and it just makes for a really great photo. Someone standing on the spot and twirling around, flipping their hair, and there you go, you've got a great photo of an interesting kind of thing. So the shutter speed doesn't need to be super fast. Try 1/200th of a second. That maybe is a little bit slow, you might get a bit of blur. Yeah, you can just play around with the different shutter speeds. 1/1000th of a second is an example of a super fast shutter speed that's not going to have any blur at all. So it kind of depends on the style you're going for. But yeah, with a faster shutter speed, you can definitely capture things like walking across the road, flipping hair. And also, you can get your model to start at one point and then walk past you, where you're taking loads of photos as they go. Or you can simply ask your model to stand in one spot and rock back and forth so it looks like you're walking. So that's another way to take photos that look like you're walking, but you're actually just going from your back foot to your front foot, rocking back and forth. So if the model does that and you take photos of that, it'll look like they are actually moving when they're just staying in one spot. If you're taking all these tips on board, you're doing a really great photo shoot, I'm sure. Do be sure to get lots of different angles and different photos. So you want maybe a close-up a mid shot, a full length shot of the whole outfit. Try different angles, try different areas around the location. As much as you can, try different ideas. Assuming you're doing digital, you can definitely just go wild, take a load of photos, and you'll be able to kind of pick the best ones and work from there. So as you're doing all of this, make sure to keep looking back at the photos you're taking and make sure that everything's looking okay. Are they exposed correctly? Maybe the sun has gone behind a cloud and you need to increase the aperture, for instance. Do you have enough close-ups? Maybe you need to get a nice detail shot. Ask yourself all these questions because you only have this one period of time with this model. You don't know if you're going to shoot with them again necessarily. So yeah, just make sure that you cover yourself and that you both get a lot of different photos that you're happy with. Do keep checking the photos you're taking because of course if you're shooting in natural light especially, it can change. So you want to make sure that you haven't been like shooting loads of photos when the cloud's gone over the sun and all these photos are underexposed, for instance. If you have done that, don't panic, just change your settings so you can go ahead and take some more great photos. So if you followed all those tips, at this stage you've probably got some great photos of this model with this outfit. Are you shooting another outfit? Then of course you should ask your model to change and get shooting the next outfit. But if you're just shooting one outfit, then happy days, you're done. I just wanted to say a note on like the model's time. Of course you're shooting in your own spare time, so you're using your own time for this, but your model as well is using his or her own free time for this photo shoot. So you don't want to take up too much of their time. You do have to respect that you're both doing this for free. For me, I would try and shoot for 35 to 45 minutes. I think that's a really good sweet spot where the model is still fresh and happy and I'm happy and we get some great photos and you're not taking up too much of the model's time. That's kind of on the faster side. I understand if you're new to photography or you're not as advanced, then it could take longer. So it's just about being respectful of the model's time really. An hour and a half photo shoot for one look is plenty of time. So yeah, I would really advise not going over an hour and a half for sure. Don't be taking hours of this person's time. So at this stage, I think I've offered you loads of different tips and tricks for your shoot day. There's nothing more for me to say really, except wish you a lot of good luck for your first photo shoot. So, share. Firstly, send your edited images to your model and thank them for a great shoot. Or if you worked with an agency model, you might need to refer back to the agreement with the agency because you're probably supposed to send the modeling agency the photographs directly rather than the model. Often, I also give the model a chance to choose a few of their photos for me to edit, just in case I missed one of their favorites. It's up to you if you want to offer this. If you are going to offer this, then a great way to show your model all the photos to choose from is using Pixieset. You can simply upload low-res photos, even including a watermark if you want to be extra careful, and you can send them the photographs to choose from. They can then heart a few of their favorites for you to edit and send back. Once you've edited all your favorites, and perhaps a few of the model's favorites, you can use Pixieset, Google Drive, or WeTransfer to send the photos to the model. Also, don't forget to send it to any other collaborators, perhaps makeup artists or stylists that you work with on the photo shoot. Of course, everyone who worked on the shoot needs these photos for their portfolio. They all put a lot of work and effort into the shoot, so don't forget to make sure that they also get the photos. And then get sharing your work on social media and in your portfolio. So great job. Next, we're going to go on to the conclusion where I'm going to be talking about the class project. So that's pretty much it. I hope I've given you some ideas on how you can do your first photo shoot with a model. There's nothing really more for me to say except to give you your class project. So the class project is to simply follow along with the tips and tricks I've given and to do your own street style photo shoot. If you'd like, you can also share them on Instagram, of course. And be sure to tag me in the caption, so I'm at shotbyclairep. I'm going to be sharing some of my favorites on my story. So it would be great if you could go ahead and do that. But yeah, that's pretty much the whole course. So I can't wait to see the photo shoots you do. I can't wait to see them on Instagram. Happy shooting and good luck.